Hi everybody! My name is Anna Money and I am a rising sophomore biology major at Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee. This past summer I've been the bird intern at Edwin Warner Park and I've been helping out with the really amazing research that they do there. And I've also been working on my own research project. So I decided to research the incredible and complex situations surrounding the huge purple martin pre-migratory roost here in Nashville. The season isn't over yet, so of course there's still more data currently being collected on everything that's going on. But as I said, it's a really complex issue with lots of different factors, but I believe that it's very important from a conservationist perspective and also from the perspective of someone who just cares about purple martins. So I'm going to share with you some of the roost history, the conflict, what was done as a result of the conflict, and some of the impacts that those actions have had. So, of course, each year as the breeding season ends, purple martins from distant locations gather every night in large pre-migratory roosts, which can grow to many thousands of birds. From mid-August to September, this group will depart and migrate to South America for the winter. Though these roosts' exact purpose is unknown, research has shown that purple martins tend to favor sites that change little over time and sites that are in close proximity to bodies of water. Also, given that martins have adapted to depend almost entirely on human beings for nesting cavities, it's no surprise that they appear to return to urban roost sites more than to any other land type. These factors may help explain why in 1996, a large group of martins began roosting northwest of Nashville, Tennessee, and then moved downtown in the year 2000. Over the next 20 years, the roost position changed several times until it finally settled on the trees outside the Schermerhorn Symphony Center. So in June of 2020, thousands of purple martins began roosting in the courtyard trees of the symphony. The numbers grew and grew until mid-August when they peaked at about 150,000 birds. The martins' presence generated amazement from passers-by, but it also generated large quantities of fecal matter on the benches, on the sidewalk, the ground, and the symphony building itself, as well as damaging the 31 trees in the courtyard. The roost location was in an area that was highly trafficked by patrons of the symphony, and the cost of cleanup was considerable, especially in light of recent financial losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Hoping to preserve this important roost site, the Tennessee Wildlife Federation and the Tennessee Nature Conservancy began a fundraising effort to help cover the cost of this cleanup. The purple martins returned to the roost site in 2021 in similar numbers, but the symphony's financial situation, had not improved. After the roosting season of 2021, the Nashville Symphony determined that they could not continue to sustain the financial losses created by the martins, and they began deliberating on how to solve the issue. So here is a radar image from a local news station that shows the morning departures of martins from the Nashville roost site. Notice the distinctive donut shape that the birds make, the shape that they form as they fly to different areas of the state to forage during the daytime. So while the symphony was faced with financial and public issues, many people and conservationist groups were more concerned about the purple martin's safety. Pre-migratory roosts are a vital step in the migration cycle of martins, and the disruption of a roost this size could have many negative impacts. Many individuals and groups called on the symphony to embrace the birds as a unique and important part of the city. However, the symphony stated that the removal of the birds was vital, though the best method of doing so was uncertain. Direct contact with the martins is federally prohibited. Harassment techniques are not only ineffective, but they could also be very detrimental to the bird's safety. Cutting the trees down before the roosting season would avoid these things, but would also present a problem of its own. The tree canopy in Nashville was already very small, and the grove-like group of trees by the symphony was an oasis of sorts for birds. Any loss of trees in the downtown area would be very detrimental. So, given the variety of different interests, a series of meetings began between the Nashville Symphony, the Office of the Nashville Mayor, the Nature Conservancy, the Nashville Tree Conservation Corps, local businesses, and other groups ensued. Each group worked together, along with guidance from the U.S. Department of Agricultural Wildlife Services, the Tennessee Wildlife Federation, the Bird Program of Warner Parks, and Joe Segrist from the Purple Martin Conservation Association, to come to a solution that was beneficial to everybody that was involved. The safety of the purple martins, the protection of symphony property, and the conservation of the urban tree canopy were the main issues of concern. Finally, in May of this year, the Office of the Mayor, John Cooper, released a statement in conjunction with the Symphony, the Nature Conservancy, and the Tree Conservation Corps that detailed their plan. The Symphony would cut down the courtyard trees the same month to keep the purple martins from roosting, but under a few conditions. The Symphony had promised to replace the trees and donate several more to the city to build up the tree canopy. They also donated to the Bird Program of Warner Parks to support purple martin research. Also taken into consideration were the Metro Government-owned trees that were across the street from the Symphony roost site. These trees were the subject of several non-harmful deterrent techniques to drive away any martins. They were to remain unless 100 or more purple martins decided to roost in them. These Metro-owned trees were very heavily pruned. Lights in the surrounding area were turned off during the sunset roosting hours in the June to August roosting period because martins have been shown to be attracted to lighted trees. The Nature Conservancy hired and the Metro government paid for a group of observers, I was one of them, to keep track of how many martins roosted and where they were roosting. For 43 nights, 2 observers were stationed by the Metro-owned trees from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. They were also in charge of playing crow playback calls on a speaker underneath the trees to deter the martins during those hours. For the majority of those nights, a licensed falconer was hired to be present with a Harris hawk, a natural predator of smaller birds like martins. In addition to the efforts to deter the birds, efforts were also made to attract the martins to an alternate roost location near the Cumberland River about a mile away. Lights were placed in the trees at the site, and purple martin gathering calls were played. Observation dates began in early June, largely due to the reliable fledge dates provided by the Purple Martin Conservation Association and all of the citizen scientists who contributed to that data. The observations began at roughly the same time as the fledge dates began to pick up, and this valuable information allowed us to observe the roost from the very beginning. It was assumed that the roost would be established by July 30th, so the end date was set there. At the beginning of these nightly observations, there were very few martins in the sky, but over the next month their numbers grew and grew exponentially, and they were seen circling above the Symphony itself and above the Cumberland River nearby. No martins were observed at the Lure roost site, but several thousands are currently roosting in the trees very close to the Lure site every night. Several thousand are also currently roosting in trees at 2 other sites, each of which are less than half a mile away from the Symphony. No martins were seen roosting in the Metro-owned trees, but smaller groups often skimmed the tops of them and flew through the courtyard where the original trees once were. The last of these official observations was made on July 30th, and the estimated number of purple martins roosting downtown is currently around 80,000. Though official observations have stopped, local birders are still going down every night to observe and document their numbers and their locations. So I mentioned the bird program earlier, but I didn't explain what it was. So the bird program is a 40-year-long bird banding and research program at the Warner Park Nature Center, which is a little bit south of Nashville. Members of the program have been monitoring and banding purple martin nestlings at the Nature Center and submitting the data to the Conservation Association for over 20 years. Last year, members of the program placed 6 CTT LifeTag solar transmitters on nestlings, 5 of which were detected downtown by a MODIS tracking station that was placed right above the Symphony Center. This year, 24 nestlings from 3 different locations, up to 10 miles away from the Symphony Center, were fitted with transmitters. At least 8 of the 24 nestlings have so far been detected numerous times by the MODIS tracker downtown. The immediate result of the purple martin's communal pre-migratory roost being destroyed is quite apparent. The massive group has found multiple smaller roosts, and there appears to be confusion among the martins as to where to go. Because the roosting season is still going, and the martins' numbers are still growing downtown, it's difficult to say whether the numbers are smaller than previous years, but they don't seem to have reached 150,000 yet. The peak for the last couple of years was in mid-August, though, so there is still time for them to reach those numbers. The wider implications of the destruction of the roost are not known yet, though. So because of the opportunistic and the really applied nature of this study, we weren't able to isolate the different deterrent techniques used on the metro trees. Instead, we have to assume that the overall outcome was the result of at least one of the different dispersion techniques, though the extent of each tactive's effectiveness cannot be known for certain. The overall outcome is clear, however. No martins roosted in the metro trees, despite their very close proximity to the original roost site. The nightly observations downtown showed that the purple martins continue to roost in Nashville, despite their previous roost being destroyed. And presumably because the roost was destroyed, they split into several smaller roost sites. Previous research suggests that purple martins are more loyal to roost sites in urban environments and environments that are near water. Each new site in Nashville is in close proximity to the river, which supports these ideas. The radio-tagged martins being present at the Nashville roost suggests that other martins born in the Middle Tennessee area also utilize it. So, though the situation has been very difficult for many people to navigate, let alone the purple martins, there are two very important things that should be recognized. First, how several groups of people with very different interests were able to come together and find a solution to the issue that, though not ideal, held the safety of the purple martins and the conservation of the trees in high esteem. Though the situation could have been better for the martins, it also could have been much worse. Second, it's important and wonderful to recognize the utter resilience of the martins and how quickly they adapted to the destruction of their previous roost site. However, the situation reveals deeper issues about humanity's relationship with other animals, and especially in urban environments, which are usually anything but welcoming to wildlife. Suitable roost sites continue to fall in Nashville due to development. Generally, human activity forces animals to either die, move away, or adapt. Purple martins have adapted, and adapted wonderfully to live with us, but sometimes we don't like the ways that they've adapted. This is a large global issue that faces all cities, and as development continues around the globe, more and more animals will have to contend with their new human neighbors. In order to exist with wildlife in cities, cities must plan for long-term coexistence with wildlife. This situation presents us with an opportunity to realize that we need to change our ways of planning, not just in Nashville, but everywhere. The outcome may not have been a win for conservation, but hopefully the study of this situation can be an awakening to us to the underlying issues that are present. I want to leave you with this thought. Purple martins have adapted tremendously to live alongside humans. Shouldn't humans, the most adaptive animals on Earth, make an effort to live with them as well? Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for listening to me, and I want to especially thank all of these amazing people and organizations who made these observations and the research possible, especially to the Purple Martin Conservation Association and to Joe Segrist. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Anna. An incredibly important case study, looking at a lot of different stakeholders and all of the complexity that goes along with human-animal interactions.
Thank you.
All right. So what's the latest? I know this was, a week ago or so that you recorded this. Have you guys, I know that funding ran out or is gone at this point for further
Mhm.
observation. So I know that there was still a somewhat organized plan to keep up with it, even though the funding was gone. What's the latest?
Yeah, so even though, like you said, the organized funding isn't really there anymore, there's still definitely a lot of local birders who are super interested and are who are still going out and watching the martins. So the last official count was still about 80,000, but the numbers are still continuing to grow. And like Sheila said earlier, it's like hard. It's very hard to estimate exactly how many there are. So there's probably like between 80 or 100,000 or possibly more as of now, but they're still there. They're still continuing to come in.
Yeah, still kind of in that disorganized system of, one down by the river, one up a little ways, and maybe something that's closer to the symphony than maybe we're comfortable with. I don't know. That dot looked awfully close.
It was very close. Yeah, it's very close.
Um, okay, we've got a couple of comments, not a lot of questions yet. Great job, Anna. Boy, your future is bright. A great presentation.
Oh, thanks, y'all.
Maria commenting, they hadn't thought about it that way before. Your kind of final thought there. So, just um, really important, and I'm so happy that you chose to kind of look at it from this angle, right? Because the calls that I was on about this issue, there were so many people that really had strong arguments on every side of it. There was no
Mhm.
right or wrong answer from their viewpoint, and everybody's had a valid viewpoint. So it's just so difficult, when these situations arrive.
Yeah.
How do you feel about how it's gone, just in general?
Um, Speaking from a personal perspective, um, to me, I think that the birds should come first for me. But like you said, every single group, every single organization had their own valid viewpoint, and like, personal property is super important. Trees are super important, like businesses, everything. Um, so just considering the massive amounts of different viewpoints and different desires here, I think that the way it ended up was good for all things being considered, because it could have gone a lot worse. I'll put it that way. The Martins could
Yeah,
have been injured, but they
yeah.
weren't.
They say that if a compromise leaves everybody kind of unhappy, then it was a good compromise, right? It sounds
Yeah.
like that's kind of where we're at here. Maria has a question in chat. Is there an estimate or ballpark number on how
Hmm.
much it costs to have a roost like that on your property, even if it's just an order of magnitude? You remember what they were quoting?
Um, I don't remember. I won't say this for absolutely certain, but I believe that the number that they were saying was about 60 to 80,000
Yeah,
dollars a year.
Warner Park Nature Center in chat. Hello, Warner Park Nature Center. They said they thought the symphony said over $50,000 cleaned in 2021.
Okay, yes.
Barbara's asking, was the hawk simply present or was it hunting? Could you elaborate on the
Yeah.
falconer?
Yeah, so the hawk was definitely not hunting. It was not harming the purple martins. The falconer just had it, sort of sitting on his arm and sort of doing some maneuvers with it. It was flying around, but it wasn't able to get anywhere near the actual birds.
Yeah, yeah. It was just more of a visual threat to the birds.
Yeah, a scare
Just
tactic.
exactly. We've noticed that you know with purple martin roosts, the aerial predators tend to show up, and that seems to have a very strong reaction from the martins. So the
Hmm.
thought there was that if this hawk is there from day one, maybe that's another thing that as the martins start to trickle in a few at a time and starts to grow, then you know maybe that initial seed doesn't show up elsewhere.
Hmm. Exactly.
All right. Larry, our board chair, forgive me for showing my age. Anna, you are one of several in today's conference It's great to see 110% interest in the great presentations from younger generation. I feel the future is bright. You younger folks are ensuring the future Purple Martins. Yeah, absolutely,
Oh,
Anna. Anna, the fact I don't want folks to miss the fact that you are going to be going into your sophomore year of college.
yes, sir.
I have a son, and I know he's not watching, so I don't feel that bad throwing him under the bus. But he's just going to college this year, and I can't picture him tackling a topic with the poise and
Oh,
professionalism that you did. So kudos to that, and
well, thank you
I'm
so much.
so excited to have you as a part of this, and look forward to you continuing to work with Purple Martins and continuing to report on um, the goings on there. Initially, when those Martins moved downtown in Nashville, my dream was a situation similar to that Sheila talked about in Austin, where I was thinking, oh, the symphony, they're going to
Hmm.
be outside playing like classical music inspired by the birds, Flight of the Valkyries with the Martins flying around.
Yeah,
You
I
know what?
know.
The best laid plans, but you know what? Hopefully the Martins end up, organizing and ending up somewhere reliably in Nashville that they're welcomed. And then I'm going to talk about getting the symphony over there. We'll have to work on them together.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had that idea. Like a lot of people were really pushing for acceptance and making it like, oh, it's a Nashville thing. It's going to be cool. Like it's Purple Martin singing at the symphony. How cool is that?
Hey,
But,
another victim of COVID. I know that their
yeah,
financials have really taken a hit from it. So,
yeah,
thank you
totally.
so much, Anna, and
Oh,
appreciate you being a part of this. And we're gonna move on to Zach, our
alrighty.
final speaker of the session.
Thank you so, so much. It's been
Take
awesome.
awesome. Take care.
Alrighty, you too.